welcome you to this installment of the Pinnergy Programs and Procedures. This video series is aimed at improving your knowledge of, as well as your proficiency in, various programs and procedures that are present in the Pinnergy system. This video focuses in on the e-ticketing system that is present in the Fluids division. This application gives the driver an electronic ability to collect, organize, and transmit data to the Pinnergy servers. Built-in validation helps to reduce errors, and by reducing the number of errors improves the time that it takes to get an invoice. Before we actually start the discussion, let's have an opportunity to discuss a few terms. Activity. Activity is any process that is necessary in order for the job to be considered complete. In any job, there is a start and a complete time. These two are going to be present regardless of whatever other services that you may render on the job. In addition, a standard fluids job will have two additional activities, one haul and a disposal. So collectively you have four activities present in this: start, haul, disposal, and complete. Form. Form is the order in which activities need to be entered in order to be considered correct. For a standard fluids job, the form would be start the job, haul the fluid, dispose of the fluids, and complete the job. This order is very important. It bears repeating. The driver logically cannot do anything until the job is started. Fluids can't be disposed of before they're picked up. None of these activities can be done before the job is complete. If this form is not followed, corrections need to be made before finalizing the job. With that said, let's proceed on. On the desktop, you have an icon that is marked Centauri. Tap that. You will have a Pinnergy logo which will appear for about 10 seconds. Once the logo disappears, you will be given a login page. There's several items of interest on here. The first would be the build version. It is directly across from the Pinnergy logo, and it will be in a format of 1.28 or 1.29.00, something like that. This number is not necessarily important to the driver until such time as technicians get involved in trying to diagnose a problem, and that it's important to them. The next item would be the language that the driver wants to perform his task in. English and Spanish are the only two languages that we support currently. You can tap on the flag image that represents the language that you want to communicate in. In this example, we'll be using English for our testing. The first item that we want to look at is user ID. This is the driver's ID. The driver's ID normally is 6 characters long, and many of the older drivers will have leading zeros on there. For example, if their number is 001850, then you will just type in 1850, no need for the leading zeros. So you tap on the user ID and enter the number that you want, the driver ID, and then tap done. The next thing that you're interested in is the password. You can enter anything that you want, but after the first time you need to remember that password because it'll block you out if you got it incorrectly. You enter that and tap done. The next thing to enter is the truck number, and the truck number is the truck that you were assigned to for that activity. In your particular case, you tap on truck and type in what truck you want and click done. You look at the information. If it's correct, then you will tap the login button. If there's any errors, it will return to you stating what the errors are. Otherwise, it will go to the work order list. This is a list that shows all of the jobs that you have been assigned during that given day. They may come back to you in a variety of statuses, and that it would be represented by the colored icon that is to the left of each job number. You have four colors or four color coding schemes that you would be interested in. Red means that no activity has been done on that particular job. Yellow indicates that the job has been opened and some activity has been performed against it, but it has not been completed. Green, it means that all activities have been entered and it's ready for processing. Black and white indicates that it has been submitted and that billing now has possession of it and you can't edit off of that. In order to be able to perform edits on the job, you will tap on the job that you want to, just tap on the line, and the line will turn orange. And if this is starting a new job, it will come up with a message that says, start this job. Do you wish to start the job? Select yes to start, select no to return. In the event that you inadvertently tapped one of the work orders, you didn't mean to, you can tap no, and it will return back to your work order list. If you tap yes, then it will go into the edit mode and allow you to perform processing on that. So we'll tap yes, and if this is a new job, the first item that will come up is a start job activity. This is entered for you. You don't have to change anything about it. You don't have to edit it in any way unless the time is incorrect, and then you would want to go in and change that. If the time is correct, then you want to go until you reach the lease where you're going to be pulling the fluids from, and then you would add a new line. You're going to be adding the haul activity. So we tap add a new line and it will go to the edit page. There's a few items that we need to talk about on this, and you have the title bar is an orange bar up at the top, and in that it will give you the work order number and the service requested that was passed on to the dispatcher. The next item of interest is the customer number and customer name, and this is the customer that is financially responsible for the work. You have two buttons, a lease name and then a disposal name button. After that, you have several questions that will be filled out. The first thing that it wants to know is what activity are you performing at that location. So you select activity, and there will be a list, a scrollable list in the center of the page that you can select from. In this particular case, we want to haul fluids, so we would tap haul. We'll see that the selection is now transferred over to the select activity. The next thing we want to know is the select service. What is it that we're going to be hauling? In this particular job, it's flowback. So we tap flowback from our selection list, and it is transferred over to the select service. The next item it wants to know is where are you doing this work at? Where are you hauling the fluids from? The lease that is on the button at the top of the page is the correct lease that you're currently at. Then you can simply tap it and it will transfer that information down to the select activity location for you. If it is not correct, then you can simply start typing in, and you will see that a list of leases will come up in the center in the selection bar, and you can keep typing until you see the one come up that you want, and you can select from that selection list. If no selection comes up, that means that there is no item in that list that meets the criteria that you've typed in. So you can just continue on typing and put in the lease. You can get this lease information generally off of a placard that is at the front gate of the lease. Okay, so we're going to haul flowback from this lease, and the next thing that we need to enter is the time that we arrived at the lease. If you tap the start button, it will fill in the current date and time for you. If that information is incorrect, then you can tap whichever field is incorrect, the date or the time, and you will receive a variety of prompts as to correcting the information that was entered. Once that information is corrected, then the next thing that you want to know is how much fluid have you picked up at that location. If it was 130 barrels, you type in 130 in the quantity. If it was 80, then you type in 80. I want to know the actual barrels that were picked up. The next thing that you want to enter is the gauges. Now, in a flowback job, there will not be any gauges, but if this was saltwater or some other gauge fluid, then we would tap on the top gauge, and we have two methods of entering that information, either feet and inches or just strictly inches. If it's feet and inches, then we will type in the feet, then put a decimal point, and then the number of inches. So 12 feet 6 inches would be 12.6. 6 feet would be 6.0. We have to have that decimal point present in order for it to interpret that as feet and inches. We enter in the feet and inches, tap done, and then go to the bottom gauges and enter that also. And again, since fluids do not have gauges, we'll take that out. Okay, at this point, we have completed most of the information. We say that we want to haul flowback from the month ranch allocation. Starting at this time, we've collected this many barrels, and now we're ready to end the job. But before we do that, there may be information that you want to pass on to your supervisor or to the billing crew, and you have an area for driver comment. You can tap on that and type in anything that you feel will be relevant to the supervisor or to the billing crew. Once you've entered your information in, then you tap save, and it will give you a notification that it has saved that activity. We say okay, and now it returns you back to your activity list, and now we see that we have a start job and we see that we have a haul flowback activity. So now we have 2 of the 4 activities. We go on down the road until we get to the disposal. We add a new line, and now we're going to go through the same process but complete the information from the disposal perspective. So the activity would be disposal, service would be flowback. Select activity location is now going to be the disposal that we're at. In this example, there is no disposal that was entered, so we need to type in until we find something in our list that will fill in that information. In this particular case, we typed in SWD, and it came up with a selection that we put in there. Again, we want to know what time did you get to the location. So again, we tap the start button, and we correct any information that needs to be corrected. Then we want to know how much fluid did we dispose of. Since we selected 130 barrels during the haul process, we're going to dispose of 130 barrels. Tap done. In this particular case, there are no gauges to be concerned with, so that part is automatically masked out for you. You don't even see them. If you're at a disposal, you may be given a ticket at the disposal, and you will take and put that information into the disposal entry field. At this point, if we have any comments that need to be made, for example, there were 3 trucks ahead of you and you want to relay that back to management, then in the driver comments you can put 3 trucks in front of me before I could unload. Then you're ready to go out the back gate, so you would tap on the end button. You're ready to end that activity. It enters the date and time for you. If you need to make a correction, you can correct it there, and then you tap on the save button. Again, you're met with a notification that says that it's been saved and submitted. You say okay. And now we see that we've got 3 of the 4 activities that we need in order for the job to be considered complete. We have a start, haul, disposal, and now it's time to complete the job. If we're ready to complete the job, then we can tap the done button, and then it will ask you if you really intended to hit the done button. If you did, then you continue on by saying yes. If you did not, you say no, and it will return back to the activity list for you. You tap yes. It wants to know, are you really complete with the job, or are you simply closing the job out and that you want to come back to it later on? If you tap no, then it says that you are wanting to come back to the job later on, and it will change the icon on the job list to yellow, indicating to you that you have not completed the job fully. When you get ready to come back to it, you tap on the work order. It returns you back to where you were at. You tap the done button again. Say, yes, I did intend to hit the button. And yes, now I want to complete the job. And now it will go back to your work order list, and the icon is now changed to green, indicating that you have completed the job. If that's the case, then you go on to any other jobs that you may have placed in your queue. If not, then you've completed your task, and all the information has been transmitted to the dispatcher, and you have nothing else to be concerned with from this aspect. If you have any questions, then refer those to your supervisor. There will be more videos coming out with more in-depth training, and we would ask you to come back, and if you need to take a refresher course, you can look at this video again. I want to thank you.